Schema conversion is a two-step process. First, we move the schema from Oracle to the SQL Server workspace in SSMA. Once it is in the SQL Server workspace, we can make changes to the schema and resolve any errors or warnings that might exist. When we are ready, we synchronize the workspace objects with SQL Server. This is when the database objects are created in SQL Server. We can perform the conversion at any level, including the entire database, entire schema, all tables, or even individual tables. However, SSMA will perform the migration one schema at a time. In this example, we will convert an Oracle schema to a SQL Server database. To do this, we select the schema called Prosware and right-click the schema. SSMA reads the Oracle schema and creates the corresponding objects in the SQL Server database. When the conversion is complete, the output pane in SSMA displays any errors and warnings that occurred during the conversion process. We can review them by going to the Errors tab and browsing through the messages. On a closer look at the errors, we see that SSMA has an issue with the Oracle data type interval used in a function called tenure. Since this data type is not supported by SQL Server, the analyzer flagged it as an error. Microsoft publishes white papers and periodic blog articles to provide guidance on possible approaches to resolve such issues. In this example, we will use the white paper Guide to Migrating from Oracle to SQL Server 2008 for guidance. As we can see, SSMA recommends that we use SQL Server functions dateAdd and dateDiff. Based on that recommendation, we rewrite the function tenure. Here is the modified code that will emulate the function of the data type interval. This is the process we followed to resolve issues flagged for manual conversion. As mentioned earlier, once you find a solution for a particular issue, applying the same solution for multiple instances of the issue is much less time-consuming. As mentioned earlier, schema conversion does not actually create the database objects in the SQL Server. It only creates the converted objects in the workspace. If we refresh the SQL Server instance, we can see that no objects have been moved over yet, so the database is still empty. To move the database objects from the workspace to the SQL Server database, we need to perform an additional process called synchronization. Select the database from the SQL Server Explorer window and click Synchronize with Database. This starts the synchronization of the workspace objects with the SQL Server database. After the process is complete, it shows a dialog box that lists database and table objects that exist in our workspace but not in the SQL Server instance. Click OK. SSMA refreshes the workspace and all of the schemas, including the tables that are being moved to the SQL Server database. Now let's go to the SQL Server instance to see how the converted database looks. We can see the schema with the associated objects corresponding to the Prosware database that we just converted. This is a good place to talk about application migration, since application migration is more than just database migration. After we have completed the database migration, we might need to move reports and programs to the new environment. Though SSMA does not convert them automatically, we could use SSMA to assist us with such conversions. For example, if we need to move a PL SQL code to the SQL Server environment, we could just enter the statement in the SSMA Oracle pane and convert the schema. As you can see, SSMA converts the PL SQL statement to the SQL Server equivalent. Now all we have to do is copy the converted code and plug it into the appropriate place. To review, we just covered the process to convert the schemas from the original Oracle environment to the SQL Server environment. In the next phase of the migration process, we will migrate the data from the Oracle environment to SQL Server.